This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. My guest today is Kevin Callahan. Kevin is the co-founder of Uniblock, a collection of blockchain toolkits designed to make Web3 development faster and scalable. And well, that is what we'll learn all about today. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thank you for having me, Andy. I really appreciate it. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you here, Kevin. We'll do what we do at the beginning of the show. Would love it if you could please introduce yourself. I've just had a quick look. I can see you do have an interesting background. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, I suppose, your personal professional story in the lead up to co-founding Uniblock. I can see you spent time at Coinbase and Twitter, I think. So talk us through what you've been up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think of myself as a fun-loving Canadian that lives in the Bay Area. I had a couple of different startups, sold a couple of them, and ended up at a company called Wattpad, actually, which I'll kind of do a nice little throw out to. So Wattpad is the largest social network for writers and now has 100 million users. Ended up getting sold to Naver out of Korea, which is kind of excited. But after that, ended up at Twitter. So originally I was on the product growth team, and just had the opportunity to really try to drive user growth around the world through various means. Then ended up kind of more of a strategic partnership role, trying to, drive user growth, drive revenue growth around the world, which is really fun. Took me, from Singapore to Brazil, which was really cool. Then ended up at Coinbase. Coinbase was involved with a number of different initiatives. So our stablecoin USDC, kind of international work and growth work, again, strategic partnerships, what now became Coinbase Cloud. That was one really great thing about Coinbase, other than, the team was awesome. And, crypto is clearly awesome, but just the breadth and depth of all the things that we got to do was really exciting. And after the IPO/DPO, got into more angel investing. So I'm an angel in a number of different companies. Actually saw my first IPO from a psychedelics company, which, by the way, the Venn diagram between crypto and psychedelics is pretty high, which is kind of fun. I'm an LP, like I said, in a couple of different funds. And I get to teach product management for students. But that brings me to Uniblock, where, we are really trying to make building in Web3 much easier than it is. And we have a number of different services and tools that we brought to market. So I'm sure we're going to talk all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't resist just kind of circling back really briefly to your time at both Twitter and Coinbase, because obviously, they very much inform what you're doing now at Uniblock, particularly Coinbase. But it's just it feels like a really, it's a cliche to say it's an interesting time in the world, Kevin, but it really is with so much going on. And, so firstly, I'd just love to get your quick kind of hot take opinion on, Elon's, purchase or acquisition of Twitter and, the way that he is really kind of, I suppose, in his own unique style, kind of trying to fast track the improvements, if you like, of how Twitter works and how it can continue to work, because that's a really interesting story at the moment. Also, Coinbase, such a fundamental part of the crypto story. And, at the moment, there's this kind of regulatory pushback from, I suppose, the US, various different US government departments. And there's this kind of ongoing push and pull for it's almost like a fight for the future of crypto. So I know these are really big existential questions, really, Kevin, but however you want to approach that, love you to just comment on Twitter and how you see kind of Coinbase and the US, what that relationship is at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. There was a lot there. So let me try to unpack it. But
Please.
no, yeah, no, of course. But one thing I really love about Twitter and Coinbase is that when you say those names, people have an affinity towards them, right?
Yep.
People have an opinion. And, I'm very fortunate to have worked at companies where I love the product and people are passionate about, my work. And it's not always positive. Sometimes people, I remember during the Trump era, I would have family members saying, why is Trump still on Twitter? Or why is this happening? And you can't really win. But it's really nice to be at, a cocktail party and everybody kind of goes around and says what they do. And then when you say what you do, people care. So that I'm very fortunate to be able to say that. So Twitter, I think, again, I love the product. I love the people. I love kind of the mission. I will say that, and honestly, like I like Tesla, I love SpaceX, so I take my angle insofar as when people buy a company, normally they buy it out of love, either for the market share, the product, the people. There's some sort of affinity towards that M&A deal. And in this particular instance, it feels like it was a marriage out of hate. Elon kind of came in essentially saying that the employees were subpar, the product was drowning in bots and subpar, and has kind of waged a war on kind of the employees and what they had built in the past. And I think that's kind of unfortunate because it creates an environment where you are pitting current and previous employees against each other. And it's hard to recruit top talent when it's so tumultuous. And so I think that the people that I know that are still there are amazing, and I love them and I want them to be successful. It's just really difficult when you're in an atmosphere where things are kind of just constantly changing and a little bit of chaotic. I mean, Twitter was always chaotic, but this is like, level 1,000 chaos. So happy to talk more about that. And I truly hope that they're able to, deliver the product that we all want. But it's hard when people are leaving, and it's going to be they're on the top uphill climb, so to speak, Andy.
Yeah, and I think that's a really astute, high level summary of what's going on. But of course, we all, those of us who do use Twitter, we're probably, more. We all spend more time on Twitter than we'd like to admit, perhaps, which does show the power of the product and the love that us as users have for the product. So, of course, we can do nothing but wish Elon the best anyway. Let's keep it moving, Kevin. We'll get to Uniblock, but I did ask about Coinbase. So, yeah, I guess same thing if you like.
Yeah, I mean, so again, I love the product. I was introduced to it. So Fred Wilson and the Union Square Venture team had invested in Wattpad, Twitter, and Coinbase. And, I'm a big fan of them and everything they do. And, I was kind of introduced to the concept of Coinbase many years ago when he does his like daily blog, or he used to at that point. And so what I would just read and say, oh, what is this Coinbase thing? This is really interesting. And I remember buying my first Bitcoin, like 2013 or something like that, and literally going to like the local Walmart and meeting like a stranger in the parking lot, and it just didn't sit right as like, this is a sustainable idea. Yeah. But then when it's kind of like ordering an Uber, right? You download the app, put in your credit card, and some stranger comes and picks you up in their car, or you download the app, you put in your credit card, and now you're potentially sleeping in somebody's, house, like Airbnb. And that kind of was like the light bulb for me, was when I did the same thing with the Blue app, as Coinbase. And I was like, oh, cool. Like I can buy Bitcoin. I think it was like literally Bitcoin, Ethereum, and kind of like Litecoin back in the day. But that was kind of a light bulb for me. And then I ended up trying other products and services. And at that point, they felt more, they didn't feel as welcoming to me as just like a retail consumer, but just as somebody that's interested in technology. And so I kind of really love the product. And I really clearly am very passionate about crypto and blockchain, and what, as of 6 months ago, we started calling Web3. I didn't get the email, but apparently that's what we're calling it now. And so I love the product. And then when I had the opportunity, kind of reached out again to the Union Square Venture people, they made some intros and was able to kind of go there. I think Coinbase has a lot going for it. The talent is, again, amazing. They have 100 million users, so the reach is gigantic. They're a seminal product in a very kind of new nascent technology that we're all very passionate about. And I think for them, it's really how do they continue to drive adoption, to continue to drive like products that people love, especially now where the foundation of CeFi is in question. And not because of them. I think Coinbase has done an amazing job with staying on the right side of law when they can, and making sure that their products are accessible and safe to use. But unfortunately, because of a lot of bad actors and unfortunate actors with bad risk planning, have really made CeFi unsure where that's going. And so a lot of DeFi, and when I say DeFi, I just mean kind of self-custody and the ability to live outside of CeFi. I think people like us at Uniblock are kind of like, in the words of Toby from Shopify, arming the rebels, right? So as we probably all know, DeFi is really hard right now. If you are anything other than a power user, self-custody in of itself is there's all these bottlenecks, and the UX we all know is not great. And so there's a lot of an allure to being able to turn on an app, put in a credit card, buy your crypto. And it reminds me a lot of AOL in like the early 90s, late 80s, where you buy your computer, you sign up for AOL, they give you a disk or whatever, and the on-ramp is your telephone. And they say, here's your 100 websites you need, which is a lot like the 100 coins you'll get on a CeFi application. And they'll say, here's a couple of other products and services that you might like email, which is a lot like the services that you're seeing a lot of these large centralized exchanges kind of start to offer. And anybody that left AOL in like the late 80s, early 90s was probably a software developer or somebody extremely interested in kind of using the web, because there wasn't really browsers, or there wasn't really search engines, there wasn't really Hotmail or anything like that. And then eventually it became that outside of AOL was larger than AOL. And so more and more people started to build more and more things, and the world that we know kind of was created. And so I think the Coinbases of the world are in this inflection point where how do they continue to remain relevant, where the rest of outside of crypto is becoming, the UX is starting to get better. All these people are trying to build better products and services, and just more things are available. That's, I think, where they're at right now. Yeah. And they're incredibly smart people with a lot of resources. And if anybody can do it, it's them. But that's my take on kind of like CeFi generally.
Sure. And look, Kevin, you use the phrase, what people such as yourselves at Uniblock are trying to do is arm the rebels, and I think that's obviously a great way of putting it. So, if that's the kind of the context, in that context, tell us what Uniblock is. Give us the kind of the high level vision, mission statement. What is Uniblock?
Yeah. So Uniblock is the opportunity for people to come and use a platform that'll unlock lots of different products, services that they would need in order to build something in Web3. And so in Web2, we're all accustomed to having various libraries and services and platforms that we can kind of plug and play. And, there's a lot of white space and a lot that needs to be done in Web3. And so we're kind of doing that. And so we have, our blockchain API, we have our NFT API, we have our no-code smart contract factory, we have our DeFi API coming out, our SDK, on-ramp API, and a number of other products and services that we offer so that anybody that wants to kind of develop in Web3 can use the product. And we want to make it, as easy as possible and kind of what you would expect in Web2. And so we've been building for a while now. And, we consider ourselves builders as well. So, we were building bridges and wallets and yield farms during DeFi summer and a bunch of other products and services for fun. And, we leveraged Uniblock, and now we're kind of unlocking all of that for everybody else.
Awesome. So the idea is you're creating a product suite, almost, I don't want to say Web 2 style, but in that kind of Web 2 developer friendly style. So you're making it easier for, I suppose, Web 2 developers or early stage Web 3 developers just to get a head start and kicking off their own blockchain project, whatever that might be.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it. And so, we have current customers that are wallets. We have, various DeFi projects. We have a learning product. We have some GameFi products. And so, the idea is we want them to think about their kind of like above the fold application, and we'll take care of all the complexity that is kind of like the blockchain, infrastructure. And so, normally when you're developing, if you're going to do everything from scratch, nobody does that really in Web 2. Nobody's kind of like doing it all themselves. Everybody's using various kits and tools, whether it be, Firebase or AWS or whatever. And so, we want to be able to bring that experience into Web3. And I think the other thing that I want to call out is that there are people building awesome things, right? There's people that are building really great tools for developers that we are really excited about. And therefore, what we want to do is accelerate their adoption. We don't want to build everything ourselves. Crypto is inherently decentralized. And so what we want to do is, hey, can we partner with you? How do we work with you? Whether you be an on-ramp or node provider or, some sort of KYC product or anything, we've got a lot of opportunity to accelerate each other because again, if we're arming the rebels, we have to work together to be able to do that. And so that's what gets us, really excited.
Awesome. Yeah. And how do you think about, I suppose, Uniblock's place in the marketplace for ideas for the rebels to arm themselves then? So I suppose it's another way of saying, what is the state of Web3 developer tooling? There are a few different organizations such as yours, but as you've talked about, Kevin, it is still very early ground, isn't it?
Yeah, again, using all these kind of analogies, I would say if you and I wanted to start a website right now, we could do it in probably 45 seconds. It would cost us very little. We wouldn't have to have a developer. We wouldn't have to have a designer. We could probably accept credit card. We could ship something around the world. We could, insert video conferencing, chat, push notifications. We could launch a mobile app. We could do a lot of things for very cheaply and quickly in Web 2. And we can't do any of that in Web 3 right now. We're very early stages. And that, again, going back to my kind of AOL, early 90s example, was also not possible because you'd have to you're building right from the protocol, you're building right from the metal, and you're building all these abstraction layers on top of that to the point where you're able to now just insert various SDKs, let's say a Twilio or a PagerDuty or a Mixpanel or whatever it is you're trying to do into your product to abstract and create sort of that product you're trying to do. And so what we'd love to be able to get to is where we are in a situation where you can do that in Web3. And we're really far away from that. And it's not just that we need Uniblock, we need dozens of Uniblocks building all different types of products and services in the space. And actually, that's one thing that I kind of want to just touch on is that when you talk to people, they see the way the world is right now and maybe don't necessarily see where the world is going. And I mean that in a lot of different ways. One is there's this company or that company. And so the answer is yes. But do you know how many competitors and different companies are in even something simple like payments? There's, dozens, if not hundreds of payments companies all around the different parts of the value chain. And the same thing can be said about even Firebase. Like they have like tons of different competitors, and not even just competitors, frenemies, enemies, partners. There's just a ton that needs to be built. It can't be built by even a handful of companies. If we really believe in Web3 and the promise of where we're going, there has to be lots more of us kind of trying to arm the rebels, because we're just so early with everything.
Absolutely. Kevin, earlier in the show, when you first used the Web3, you said something like, Web3 seems to be the thing that we're calling it. And, that is the case that, and it's, I suppose, on one way of thinking about that is simply, it's just a good framework for describing the different eras of the internet experience, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. It makes sense. But a lot of people have slightly different understandings of what they mean by Web3. So yeah, let's just use this as an opportunity. I'd love to hear about how you and the Uniblock team think about Web3, what it is, and where it is going.
Yeah, it's a great point. And so, a couple of thoughts. One is, the space is so early that we're kind of like even changing the fundamental name on, it feels like, like a quarterly basis, to your point. And so I think that for those of us that are in the space, that's okay, but it's very disconcerting to people that are not in the space, right? It's like, if you are the best Web 2 developer and you're being asked to potentially bring in some Web3 features or blockchain features into your product or service, it's going to be very, alarming, because you're like, okay, wait a minute, like what's a Web3? What's a blockchain? What's a cryptocurrency? Like, what is that the same as crypto? Like, what is all this? What's a node? Like, what are all these problems? Like, and so I think we as an industry need to start, again, abstracting away the confusion. I think like we like to make things a little more complicated than it is or needs to be. And I think we all win when we stop talking about it like it's some sort of black magic and start talking about the benefits that, the consumer and users, and the benefits of what we're trying to build. So I think the internet, again, became a lot more friendly and useful for the average person in the world when we weren't talking about kind of like, the fundamental protocol, and we started talking more about, hey, it's a search engine because there's lots of websites and this is what it is. And actually, on that note, as an aside, if you and I were on, sitting, in a pub having beers back in like the early 90s, our mental model of the internet would probably be, electronic mail, right? That's your entire view of the internet. It's like, oh, what's the internet for? It's a way to send, electronic mail.
Yeah.
If we come back maybe a year or two later, our view of the world would have grown exponentially at that point, but only to maybe, oh, it's also like an electric library. And, you come back a couple of years later, there's some various form factors that are unlocked. Like maybe you have access to a computer, maybe you have access to reliable internet. Maybe, now we're saying, oh, back, the iPhone is released and now you have like mobile. And so I think the way that I'm looking at it, the way we're looking at it is, if you can think about where we can go in an open-minded view, then it's pretty limitless. Because if you're just thinking about everything as a cryptocurrency, then your model is back where the internet is just an electronic mail. Like, what is blockchain? Oh, it's like a coin on the internet. It's the internet money, right? It's like, okay, yeah, that is one potential use case, like a medium of exchange or a store of value. That's fine, but that's just one angle of the, well, really, that's just like the consensus algorithm and like the way to keep people kind of pulling in the right direction through game theory. But I would say that we as an industry have to start thinking, okay, where are we going to be in 5 to 10 years? And what are sort of the unlocks that are required? Like, and there's people working on these things. Like, if you and I wanted to start a startup, let's say we wanted to create some sort of like, food delivery company. Sure. All right. So we get our food delivery company. We get some funding and we go and spend that funding on Facebook or Google. We drive user growth. And there's this whole tried and true. And I did it at Twitter and Coinbase, where there's this tried and true growth model that you can leverage. But we know that doesn't really exist in the same way in blockchain and Web3, right? Like it's a lot harder to understand you as a consumer, what you like, what you don't like, have a lookalike consumers market to you properly. And so I know there's lots of people working on that, but that's how early we are. Like you can't even market. So the people that are trying to make those tools and those unlocks will help us get to where we need to be, because Uber wouldn't be what it is today if they weren't able to utilize Facebook ads or Google ads or, the iPhone or just like maps. So those are the types of ingredients that we would love to help, move forward. And you kind of asked me, and I kind of meandered towards it, but like, what is my view of this? My view is this, that, and by the way, this might be controversial, so I apologize and bleep it out if you think I'm going to get like, doxed or something, although my name is Kevin Callahan, you can Google me, but, I'm not a maximalist. I believe that Web 2 and Web 3, centralized and decentralized, can actually live and will live in harmony, where sometimes having a database is fine. And sometimes it makes sense to have a centralized entity that, reaps most of the reward, and ends up kind of distributing value in different ways. And I think that has worked, and I think will continue to work. And it'd be hard for me to see a world where that doesn't happen. But I also believe in many instances, and the ones that I'm very passionate about, you will have a decentralized opportunity where maybe it's a decentralized social media product or decentralized eBay, or, some sort of necessity for maybe it's, again, decentralized voting in parts of the world where we want to make sure that they can vote. So I'm really excited about that future. And I'm pumped about how all of us can work together to enable that. So sorry, that was a long answer, but I hope that it made sense.
Awesome. No, that was great, Kevin. Kevin, very much enjoyed that. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Just as we finish off this part of the podcast, then, for any, I guess, a Web 2 or Web 3 developers, for the developer community, people who are thinking of starting some kind of Web3 project, or maybe they already have one, just make the case for why they should come and have a look at the kind of tooling that Uniblock has available. And look, please feel free to use some kind of specific use case examples. Whatever you like. Why Uniblock?
Yeah, I love that. I think there's a couple of things that we like to kind of highlight. One is that we're builders. We're building this for other builders. We're building the technology we wish existed. We would love to work with, the environment, with our customers and the community to build what's required. So again, we're very much like a team player. We've also worked at the Coinbase and Twitters of the world. And so we understand the do's and don'ts of mission critical infrastructure, and kind of what is required in order for somebody to trust you, with that infrastructure. And so we are thinking about it from a deeply rooted growth way, and again, like a mission critical infrastructure way. And I think, we are shipping really quickly. We're constantly driving new products and services to the market. We're listening to our customers and moving really nimbly and quickly. So, if there's something that you think needs to be built, I would absolutely love for you to reach out. You can reach us at uniblock.dev. You can find us on Twitter at Uniblock. And you can just find us anywhere. But I think those are some of the reasons why I would love people to check us out, and would love to have them as partners.
Awesome. And yeah, I mean, if you're a developer, yes, indeed, just as Kevin said, uniblock.dev, heaps of information on the website. So yeah, hey, thanks, Kevin. I reckon we go to a really quick break, and then we will come back. We'll have some fun. We'll finish off, and we'll run you through the very famous Crypto Conversation hot take round back in 1 second.
For crypto indices and benchmarking, Brave New Coin's powerful indexing engine can calculate high-frequency intraday and end-of-day indices for a wide range of index products. Brave New Coin's custom indices team delivers experienced consultancy, premium data, and trusted calculation. Contact BNC today to find out more.
All right, we are back, and I'm with Kevin Callahan. Kevin is the co-founder of Uniblock, collection of blockchain tooling, as we have heard. Kevin, you may or may not know, but I like to finish each Crypto Conversation podcast with a quick round of rapid fire Crypto Conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
Let's roll. Let's go.
Let's go, Kevin. So I'm just going to run some questions at you. Just kind of want, honest hot take style answers is how we do it. The first question for you, Kevin, is a bit of a funny one, but where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
Oh, I love that. It depends on your take of the world. Are you thinking about a kind of like a preserving your assets? Then I would say Bitcoin. If you're thinking about all the technological unlocks, then I would say multi-chain.
Yeah, and that is really the correct answer. They're doing different things at this point. Okay, well, Kevin, what would you say is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
I fully believe that we are currently in the blockchain is email. Email is like, the world of where we live. And I think we're going to see some incredible unlocks in the next several years that are going to make our current worldview look quaint by comparison.
I couldn't agree more. And so, with that in mind, Kevin, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. So if you kind of look, 10 years forward, Web3, blockchain, whatever you like, what does it start to look like?
I think it looks like how we look at mobile right now. It's just it's an easy transfer from web to you're using your computer, using mobile. Everything works seamlessly. It feels very clean. It feels very easy. I think that's where we're seeing the early stages of that, where there are some really interesting green shoots, but it's still way too hard. And I think we're going to look back and say, oh man, like you don't even know if you're moving between blockchain technology or Web 2 technology. You're just cruising on the internet.
For sure. Flip side of that, of course, is a quote by William Gibson, who famously said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. Can you think of an example, Kevin, of the future being here right now, but most people just aren't really aware of it?
I mean, yeah, I would say right now, some of us understand, you mentioned the blockchain, like multi-chain versus coin, like Bitcoin versus a couple other things. I think that is very few people understand why you need to have, 10,000 different, blockchains and tokens and things like that. So I think there are some of us that are really excited about the future, but if you actually sit down over a beer and ask people questions, I think that most people don't fully understand it right now. And I think it's being lost to quote unquote cryptocurrency versus like blockchain technology.
Yeah, very much. And NFTs kind of a similar thing. It's very much a hot button, hot topic issue, if you like. A lot of people have very negative views, of course, but there's a passionate Web3 NFT community. Kevin, NFTs. Are you an NFT guy?
Yeah, I mean, I love the unlock. I'm going to be honest. What was it? 2020. We weren't talking about NFTs at Coinbase, right? I don't think anybody was, right? Like OpenSea had a couple of competitors that went bankrupt. Nobody was interested from a VC perspective to a consumer perspective. Then I think NBA Top Shot came along and then just found, this beautiful UX that made sense to people. And then it all of a sudden everybody had to have an NFT plan. And, and I think that's exciting. And I like the art, but I also, again, I think I'm just a nerd when it comes to technology. The underlying unlocks that you can have with an NFT is super interesting. And I think that's kind of where we're going. And you're seeing, again, Starbucks with their stamps, like they're unlocking these things and abstracting away the confusion for consumers.
Yeah, very much so. All right, time to get weird just for a second, Kevin. If we zoom out, what do you see as the long-term future for the human race? Do you see dystopia or utopia?
Oh my God. I'm an optimist. I'm going to go with utopia, but it's our decision. We have to get our shit together.
Yeah, absolutely. And the final question, Kevin, is what would you say is your favorite science fiction book, film, TV show? I'm going to get made fun of, but I just love Star Trek. I grew up with, all the different types of Trek, and I still watch it. I still love it. So yeah, Star Trek. Nice. Well, yeah, I mean, Fran Striner, the founder of Brave New Coin and Tekami, he's like a massive sci-fi nerd, but in particular, he's a Star Trek nerd. And at our at the Brave New Coin offices, we had a series of meeting rooms, and each one was named after a different part of the Star Trek universe.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's really cool. I should ask Fran about that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of kind of like Next Generation and, like even the original and some of the new ones I'm getting into. Yeah. But I just love their view of the world. And I guess that goes back to like utopia versus dystopia, right? Like if it's like, I like I love Star Wars, don't get me wrong, but that's like classic dystopia. It's like, there's evil and, we're all kind of like just trying to get trying to get through. And then Star Trek, it's like, hey, we've actually been able to utilize this technology. And it's kind of like, trying to explore, and we have enough resources for everybody. So yeah, maybe that's part of that question. It's like, what do you like better?
Yeah, well, I think, you said at the beginning of the show, Kevin, there's like the Venn diagram crossover of people that are into crypto and psychedelics. And I think add Star Trek to that, and you can kind of get a sense of the worldwide community, right?
Totally. I agree 100%. And, I love all types of that, like I remember, watching Babylon 5 and like Stargate and like all this sort of stuff. So you asked me for my favorite, and like fundamentally I'm a Trekkie, but I love science fiction, at all.
Awesome. Hey, really fun chatting to you today, Kevin. Thank you so much for coming on the show. The only way to finish is, again, please shout out your Twitter handles, and again, make the case for Uniblock.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are at Uniblock on Twitter. We're at uniblock.dev on the web. And we are really, we're a bunch of builders that are trying to build the infrastructure needed to arm the rebels for, the future of blockchain technology. So would love you to join us any way you can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin. All the best, and bye for now.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. That was Sam from Uniblock. Really enjoyed that, Sam. Very smart guy, very articulate. So, yeah. And look, Trekkie, always fun to talk Star Trek with Trekkies at the end of the show. Do hope you enjoyed that. Team, don't forget to subscribe to the Crypto Conversation in whatever podcast app you are using so you know when each new episode drops. But that is today's show. Thanks, team. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin. See ya.